We, of course, got into one of those new facilities when we went to the Delphi facility unit together in the overall Donna section and the Donna facility. So now Biden's administration is asking for money to pay for all of this expansion of the housing for these migrants. Tell me what's going on in terms of the cost here.
Well, you may be the only one that's actually gotten into that Donna facility, the only reporter, and you saw it. We asked the question while I was there that, what is this costing us? And they told us $729 per day per kid. There are 1,500 kids. That's $400 million just for that one facility. I can't imagine the Ritz-Carlton costing that much. And as you noticed, it wasn't quite the Ritz-Carlton. It was a tent with, bunk beds and a few TVs. It's hard to imagine that it costs that much. So I can see why the Biden administration is asking for more money. That's just one facility. We have them in Texas and Midland. We have them in San Antonio. We have them in Dallas. They're all over the country, so they need more money. They should be spending the money on the border, and yet that's not where the money's going.
Yeah, and at this point, we are looking at the costs increasing and the administration now wanting to go to Congress to put an additional allocation for this housing and border. Mayorkas is talking about technology into next year's budget. But I want to ask you about what the state takes on, because we've had Senator Marsha Blackburn on this program this week, and she's outraged because there are shots of planes dropping migrants off in Tennessee, the Chattanooga airport, in the middle of the night. And when I was with you in Texas, you made a point of telling me that you believe this administration is sending migrants to red states. And then at the end of the day, it's the state's responsibility to pay for their housing, their education, their health care, et cetera. What can you tell us on that front?
No, and they're so secretive about it. When we were there together, Maria, I was trying to ask them, where do these kids go? And if you'll remember what they said, oh, about 80% of them have family members to go with. I don't believe that. That's hard to believe that these Central American kids that we saw, that 80% of them have relatives here that are close enough to take. My guess is they're just being dropped off in red states, and the goal being to destabilize our states by making those costs ours. Because as you said, there's law enforcement costs, and I think a lot of these kids are tied to the cartels. They're identified with the cartels. They're brought here by the cartels, and they're moved around by the cartels. So they're tied to them, which means more crime. But then we also have costs of education, health care, just all kinds of costs to the state that we will not be helped on. And I think that's part of what Biden's trying to do.
General Paxton, we've got new Fox News polls which shows President Biden's handling of the border crisis is increasingly an issue for voters. 56% of voters disapprove of the president's job performance at the border. 57% disapprove of his performance on immigration. And yet we see the administration still not there at the border. Kamala Harris, Joe Biden have not been down to the border to see what you have viewed so many times, what I have viewed now twice in El Paso and in McAllen. Have you heard back from the administration?
No, I have not. But I bet you if they pulled the cartels, they'd be 100% in favor of this policy, because this is economic stimulus, which I know Joe Biden likes, but he's giving it to the cartels. But I'm not surprised that the president and vice president don't want to go there, because they do not want to highlight what's going on. They do not want to talk to Border Patrol. They do not want to talk to the sheriffs. They do not want to talk to state police. They do not want to talk to local city officials from Laredo, because they will all say the same thing. The policies that Trump implemented, whether it was stay in Mexico, whether it was stopping the catch and release, whether it was building the wall, they worked. None of these policies work. They match what Obama did 4 years ago, and they're unsuccessful. Not in terms of actually stopping illegal immigration.
Yeah, you're right. Ken Paxton, it's an incredible situation, and you have been doing incredible work protecting Texans and the country with your pushback. General Paxton, good to see you this morning. Thank you, sir.
Good morning. Thanks a lot.